Alright, tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about just my racing. I've put that one video about me racing, the first one I put on here, basically just talking about how I started racing and all that. It was the first time I talked about how I started racing, I guess. But I'll throw a couple videos in this video, like along with this one, to show like some different types of racing I do. The first kind I'll talk about would be, we do 300 feet dirt or sand drags here locally. There's like 3 or 4 tracks that do this locally, and it's usually bracket racing. A lot of them are. A couple of them have class races, but mostly bracket racing on the 300 feet loose dirt or sand. And it's just a sportsman tree bracket race. You usually do 2 time runs, and then you go dial in. My truck usually runs around the 5.0 range in 300 feet. 5.0 at around 65, so I usually will dial in, right around there. That's with these paddle tires we run, or scoops. They are, I don't know what the size, they're 32 inches, I know that, and they're only maybe like 12 or 14 scoops on a tire, and they're just like one single layer, or one scoop wide all the way across. They're not staggered. They're not very big tires in the world of scoops and sand drags, but I'll post a picture of them in here on my truck. And then I run these like 32-inch tall, like buckshot mudders. They're kind of skinny on the front, and that really helps with steering and all that, because the track gets really tore up at the starting line, and a lot of these shorter trucks and cars, they dig pretty deep holes, and then my truck's a long bed, it's a little bit longer, so it's usually kind of rough, and my back tires are usually like above the holes, kind of on the downhill slope into the holes, and it can be rutted up and all that. When I run, I usually try to just run right in the person before me's tracks. My truck's not fast enough to matter on if it's uneven or not. It really, you just turn the wheel. If you're going one direction or the other, it's not that big of a deal. I've never really had to get too wild on dirt before. Not with the paddle tires, especially. Sometimes I have ran it with my boggers. They're 31 1250 Super Swamper boggers. The problem with those, they're small, for one, and number 2 is that they just don't hook as good on that loose dirt. There's just nothing to grab onto. I feel like if they were cut, they would better, because there's just more space in between the lugs to grab, but it's literally just floats on top. It's kind of weird. They just don't work that good on loose dirt. My truck's very inconsistent with them, but for some reason, every time I run with them, I do really good bracket racing. I just get lucky. It seems like every time I put the paddles on, it's like I just lose first round or second round. But I usually just drive my truck to the track, change the tires, and race, and then change it back and drive home. It's just easiest. That's still easier than going, and I usually borrow my dad's car trailer. I want to buy a car trailer this year, so I'll probably make some videos about that if I do. I've been trying to save up some little bit of cash to do that. But anyways, I have to go get his trailer, bring it back here. I'm all by myself 99% of the time, so I got to figure out a way to get my truck on the trailer at my house, which can be a pain, or I need to drive my truck to the shop and somehow get back to my house to get my other truck to get the trailer. It's just a pain. It's just easier for me to just take one vehicle and throw the paddles in the bed and just change them when I get there. And I usually have people that'll loan me some tools and let me use their cordless impacts or floor jacks. A lot of time I don't even bring any tools. I just use other people's, because everybody's pretty friendly, and I know a lot of people that do it. So, but yeah, that's what I do. I usually that's kind of what I started doing. I remember the first time I ever ran my truck, it was stock with a 318. It ran 7.5s at, I don't remember, 40 something miles per hour. every time, 7.5 something every pass. It was really consistent, but it was really, really slow. And I thought I was hauling. I just thought it was so fast. But the first time I took my truck out and tested it, I went up to my brother's house. He has some property, and he plowed up a part of his field and put the paddles on there, and we just launched down it a few times. First pass ever in my truck, I had my shifter messed up. My shifter cable wasn't set up right. I didn't know what I was doing really. And I didn't really have my dad check it or anything. And I hit neutral on reverse. I hit reverse on my first pass. Stopped the truck in its tracks, killed the motor. Tranny made all kinds of noises. I thought I screwed everything up inside the tranny, but it was fine. I don't really know what happens internally when you do that, but all I know is it was like hitting the brakes massively. So anyways, I'll post some videos of that when we were testing it, because I really knew once I did that, I was like, this thing's going to run pretty good. I was really happy with it. And so yeah, I raced at some of those tracks. And I guess the next type of racing would be like harder dirt tracks. It'd be like a little bit shorter. These are usually like fair races. Like we do some local fairs. Franklin County is the 300 feet loose dirt. Bracket racing. And that's where they also host other races throughout the year. Decatur County, I raced there. Ripley County, I raced there. I went to one at Rush County this year. In Rushville, Indiana. That was pretty fun. I won that class. I think it was like 3 trucks, like me and my dad and one other truck. I drove my truck there. It's about 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more, from my house to there. I drove my truck there and raced it and drove it home that night. It was a lot of fun. It was like a street truck race, and we get there and they're like, you know, what are your modifications? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? You know, like engine, or what are you talking about? They're like, do you have a programmer on it or anything? And I'm like, oh, like that kind of modification. I'm like, no, I'm like, it's completely modified. Nothing's factory. Like it's a completely purpose-built vehicle that I just drive on the street. And they're like, oh, okay. They're like, well, you and your dad and that other guy are all way too radical, so we're going to just put you in your own class, because it was like stock trucks. And we ran that class. It was fun. And then, let's see, Osgood, which is Ripley County, I believe. That's where my dad always liked to race. He's raced there for a long time. We usually run like in big block modified class, big block modified 4-wheel drive, or even open if they have it. And we've done pretty good there. He always ran his truck there. He did pretty well over the years. I've done well there. I've won some there. He's won some. I've got a lot of seconds. So has he. We've raced each other a lot there, beat each other back and forth. And then at Greensburg, Decatur County, I believe, is there's some races there too, and they're a lot of fun. I like that track the best. They usually prep it really well. It's pretty good dirt. It gets kind of like it has some moisture in it, but it's still pretty solid. So I mean, it just hooks. Like you just don't spin that much on that. Not with Bulgars. I mean, it's like the best hooking surface in my opinion. just goes. So that's always fun because there's really no loose dirt or spinning to deal with as much, and you can really set some fast passes. Some of the real fast trucks will really make some passes there, and I've done well there too. I don't know if I've ever actually won first place in any races there, but I've got a lot of second places and, you know, pretty decent. So I'll put some videos of those up. But all's good in Greensburg are usually like 100 and let's just say 180 to 250 feet. I mean, anywhere in there. Sometimes 200, sometimes 225 maybe. I'm not real sure. It doesn't even matter. I mean, I always tell people, I mean, make it between 60 feet and 1,320 feet, and I'll run it. I mean, it doesn't matter. So, just trying to think if there's anywhere else on dirt or race. Not really. That's about it. I never did get into a lot of the people race around here at Gravel-Rama in Cleves, Ohio. I never got into that before. I've never raced down there. I have raced down there at some other races at that same track, but not in my truck, in a buddy's truck. It's pretty nice. It's a really nice track. It's sand drags. That's where some really fast stuff goes. But to do class racing there at Gravel-Rama for a truck like mine is just not realistic. It's kind of like a weight to cubic inch thing, and I have a lot of cubic inches and a lot of modifications for not very much power compared to my my engine's not very much horsepower per cubic inch, so that's really the name of the game. I mean, my truck's heavy, but it still would need to be way heavier to even be in a class where I could even halfway compete. I think if just figuring quick, me and my buddies figuring it up, I think I'd be about a second slow, which is like a lot in 300 feet. So I don't know if I'll ever race there. There's a lot of rules. I don't even know if they would let me race there. But, I mean, I like going and watching. That's a really good race to go to and watch anyways. And a lot of really fast, like, dragsters and altered cars and stuff like that. So I guess my next thing would be to moving on to pavement. So I ran my truck in the quarter mile at Edgewater in Cleves, Ohio. So 1/8 mile and quarter, I mean, I always ran to the quarter like in test and tune, but I mean, you could do either. Excuse me. And then, so I ran there a few times. I ran one race there one time as Cincy Street Nights. It was like a streetcar type of race. And I made it like 1 or 2 rounds in this class, maybe like 1150 index, and then I think the track got oiled down or something. I don't think I lost. I think the race got canceled. I think the track got oiled down really bad, and they didn't have enough time to clean it up. And then in another class, I was in like this more like modified class, and I got smoked first round by like this little Chevette or some little tiny car. I don't know what it was. I don't remember. I just know it had an LS motor, and it weighed over 2,000 pounds less than my truck because I talked to the guy. But it ran like over a second faster in the quarter. He blew my doors off. But and then I raced. This is what really made me want to get into the pavement racing. Was the last race I raced at this year was it was in Salem, Indiana. It was at this like this old airport runway. Awesome. It was like a street car race. I got in like a street tire class. There was 44 cars. And I got second place in that class. I did really well. I mean, made it through a lot of rounds. I got a bye run or even 2 maybe. I got really lucky. And I made it to the finals against, I lost to a modified like Can-Am side-by-side thing. I don't know what they're called. It's just like a Razor but a Can-Am version of it. and I know I had a turbo on it because I was talking to the guy. I mean, they might be turbocharged from the fact I don't know anything about it. I think he had it pretty built. I mean, it was fast. I can't imagine them being that fast, but maybe they are. I don't know. I mean, it was fast vehicle. I mean, he won, but he beat me for sure. I mean, it was getting closer at the end. I was gaining on him quick. I think those are belt driven or something, so they probably run out of top end, once you get going so fast. And I spun quite a bit off the line. I got smoke off all 4 tires, really pretty good. I'll put a video on here. But I mean, it just wasn't enough room to catch him. But it was fun. That was awesome. And then I got into the big tire class or unlimited class or whatever. There was just 2 classes. This was like a kind of a short notice thing. They just wanted to try it out, and it was really successful. There was tons of people there. But I got in that big tire class or drag tire class, whatever you want to call it, unlimited, and I think I even made it like 2 or 3 rounds in that. I raced a guy in a Mustang, and he just had traction issues. And then I also raced a guy, I don't remember, it was some sort of wagon vehicle or like a Malibu wagon. I'm not sure. I really don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know that many old cars. I'm not very good at any non-Mopar old car. Even Mopars I'm really not that good on, honestly. I always just mess with the trucks, so like I can name your typical muscle cars and all that, but I'm really not up to speed on every car and every package and all that, so I don't know. All I know, it was like a wagon, and I think he had some issues. So I remember I beat him by not a lot, but and then I lost to this, I think a Firebird maybe. I don't really remember. I know it was black and it maybe had like some red on the hood.
Hey, so you run that four-wheel drive?
Yeah. But really cool guy. I talked to him. I talked to everybody that I race. I always do. And really cool guy, but he beat me. I think he kind of knew what he was doing, which is great. His car was fast. And the only downside about that whole race that I had was, I mean, besides losing, which happens, I don't really care. But the only downside was that I didn't get to watch. Because when you race, you're sitting in line and you're messing with the vehicle, whatever, you just don't get to watch. And it would have been so fun to watch. And I'm always torn between just going to races or actually taking my truck. Because if I go, I can actually sit there, relax, watch the race, get into it. But if I race and it's just like stressful and, trying to talk to people and trying to make sure everything's good on the truck and listen to the announcements and all that. But it's a trade-off. I just like it all. I'm not just there to win. I'm just there to have fun. So sometimes me going and watching is just as fun. But I'll definitely have the truck at some more races like that one at Salem. That was awesome. That was basically just an unprepped as possible surface. My truck was spinning, shifting into second gear about, I don't know how far out, let's just say 150 feet out. It would actually start spinning again a little bit and kind of move around, wiggle around. It was a really weird feeling, just trying to get traction. But hopefully my new wheel and tire setup will be better this year. I'll just go over that later. That's just too much to talk about. So that's pretty much all the racing that I've done with this truck, and with the new engine setup that I've been going over in these other videos, it'll be the same stuff. Those type of dirt races and those pavement races and Edgewater and maybe some other tracks I've never been to. This year I got a lot in mind, but there's a lot going on right now in the news and in the world. A lot of things are shut down, so you pretty much know why. So we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not ready anyways. My engine's completely apart still, so we'll just have to wait and see. So let's just hope 2020 racing season will be as fun as 2019's was. All right, thanks for listening.